Hello, welcome to a special Black Friday live stream. I am Matt Moody, coming at you live from both my YouTube channel at Fake Moods on YouTube and DJ's YouTube channel, uh, because not many people know I have a YouTube channel yet. So if you're here watching on DJ's, please do consider subscribing to my channel. But until we get, the hundreds of subscribers that DJ has, I might as well just use this channel for my own personal benefit. With all that said, let's get into things.
You're saying they're looking like an idiot.
Well, is that any different than normal?
This is the first time I will admit was unbelievably wrong.
Yes, that is right. Just me today. DJ out traveling for the holiday. But he'll be back next week, so no problems there. I did get an update, though, breathlessly updating him not moving on the road. So that was quite the phone call. I'm just sitting there like, hey, I'm trying to get 12 games ready. And he's like, yeah, I haven't moved. I'm like, yeah, I know. I know, DJ. But it was snowing pretty bad. He did FaceTime me afterward to show me just how bad the snow was. But he made it safe, so no worries. Because this is a weird slate, by the way, I mean, I assume everyone who's tuning in knows, but the DraftKings main slate goes live at 4:00. I think there's 3 games that start 7 p.m. or later on the East Coast. So we have a very early slate. That means there's not many morning skates. Not many teams practiced yesterday due to the holiday. Some of the Canadian teams did. But over the course of this show, I suspect we'll get a lot of coach quotes and whatnot. I just checked the Discord before I went live, and I saw like Ryan Hartman was announced off IR. So I've picked up what I could, but with no morning skates for the vast majority of games here, I hope to sort of go through and update that stuff live. So if anyone in the chat, I know Shams is here, you should follow at Game Day Lines on Twitter. He gets pretty much everything, or I guess they get pretty much everything. And he's been very helpful with that in the Discord and whatnot. But if you see anything of that sort, please do drop it. But we'll go game by game here. I have everything set up and good to go to the best of my knowledge. So let's take a quick look at the rainbow chart, which also I should mention we have a 3:30 game that's not on the DraftKings main slate. Obviously, Tampa, Detroit, Rangers, Boston are currently ongoing. Colorado, Minnesota, I think that's a 3:30 start. Yeah, 3:30. And then 4:00, there's a shit ton of games. So I'm just going to start with LA, Anaheim. I suspect when we get back around things, Colorado, Minnesota, we'll see warm-ups. So we can touch on that game quickly if anyone's playing Showdown. And then we can move on. So otherwise, on the main slate, Calgary stands out, but Calgary always stands out. Calgary doesn't score, but Florida's been allowing a lot of goals against, so may need to give them second thought, even though I am a Stark never flames kind of guy. Washington against Toronto looks fairly good, though Toronto played a pretty slugfest type of game against Columbus the other night with Matthews, Nick Waugh, Matthew Nyes back in. So I suspect that Toronto's being a bit, oversold by the rainbow chart just because they've replaced 3 AHL quality guys with, Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes. Austin Matthews, I think, had missed the last 10, maybe not quite that many, but, he had missed a healthy chunk of this 10 game that the rainbow sheet takes into account. Scrolling down a bit, because I think I'm covering some of it, we get some good games in the night slate. Pittsburgh, Columbus, Utah, Dallas, Nashville, Chicago all have relatively strong teams within that game. Utah, Dallas both profile pretty well. And Pittsburgh, Columbus, maybe the goals are a bit lacking lately, but that's an offense thing. The defenses have not been stellar by any stretch. Otherwise, I think we'll just touch on things as we get to it. Vancouver plays San Jose. That's going to be relevant. And Brady Tkachuk is back. Hometown narrative matchup in St. Louis. Yes, did not know you could stream on two at the same time. I saw, I know the Badge Bros did this with Pete, so that's how I knew you could do it, and I figured it out on StreamYard today. So shout out to me. All right, first game up, Anaheim at LA. LA on the road. It'd be a good idea to keep up the NHL. Which, by the way, let me just show this real quick before. So I'm going to drag this tab over. I have a list on my Twitter profile at Fake Moods. Page disappeared. There it is. That is all of my NHL team beat writers in one list. So in an instance like today, that's pretty nice. But also, if you go to my page and to lists, I have every NHL team. They're pretty up to date. I can't promise every single beat writer's there for every single team, but pretty much anytime I can't find news or I see, someone like Shams post it, I make sure that person's on my list so I don't miss anything going forward. Like, for example, Josh Norris will not play today, so DJ is quite sad if he's watching. Otherwise, I will keep track on this on the other tab just to live react to things, because that's also where for me, that's where we get a lot of the betting value, because I'm not a daily bettor. I bet things daily, I should say, but I'm not out here looking to bet on things. Like, I'm not a DJ trying to put together a card no matter what. Like, I'm playing a DFS lineup no matter what. So when quick news happens that I know the books aren't reacting to as quickly as I can, or even at all, that's sort of the spot where I think that I add the most value, because I don't know whether a guy should be plus 200 or plus 350 for a power play point. Like, I could guess, but I prefer to sort of think of things more through the market based lens. So I keep up something like a unabated, which I guess we're here. I'll drag this page over too, since that's another thing I'm looking at. So we can see that obviously there's live games, but say Josh Norris was ruled back in, and someone like, I don't know, Tage Thompson, you wanted to bet on him to get shots or a point because you really like it. You could just type in Tage's name on the unabated props page, and all of Tage's props pop up. For me, I'm a DraftKings bettor, so I'm not looking to go out of my way for a FanDuel or an ESPN bet or whatever. So if I want to bet and say, oh, well, DK has the best line for shots, I would check FanDuel. They might have alts, actually. Yeah, I don't know where FanDuel's is, but this is the sort of thing I would do. I would just sort of check and go, yep, DraftKings has the best line on Tage outside of, I guess, Bovada or other books I've never heard of. So if I wanted to bet on Tage because of that news, I would just do that sort of approach and find, okay, well, I can add Tage to whatever DraftKings stuff I want to do. All right, LA, not expecting anything crazy lineup wise, but of course, we'll see. Got to stay vigilant. Fiala, Byfield, Kempe, Moore, Kopitar, Kuzmenko, Armia, Deneau, Laferriere, and Fogel, Hellenius, and Corey Perry. There could be some fourth line rotations. I wouldn't be surprised either way. All right, I'm just gonna cut myself off to get to the chat whenever I see it, because I don't know, flowing organically is not really my thing. Ben says, reminder for everyone to like the stream or never win again. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yes, certainly there will be no winning if you watch the stream and do not like it. Will you win if you watch the stream and like it? Well, I can't promise you that. Fiala, Kempe, Kopitar, Kuzmenko, Corey Perry should be the power play one. I believe I crashed out about this the last time the LA Kings were on a Morning Skate podcast slate, so I will not do so again. We do see some D-pair tweaks: Dumoulin, Clark, Edmondson, Anderson, Moverari, Ceci. I don't really think this does much. I think a lot of Joel Edmondson's like fringe punt D value was because Brant Clark is just so good offensively. Like, I don't expect Joel Edmondson to be an above average shooter for a defenseman, rates wise. We certainly don't have that in his career, and that's even with last year, where he was also above average because he played like the entire year with Brant Clark. So I don't really think there's much on the LA side outside of the power play guys. A matchup with Anaheim, of course, is a lot of fun. I'm just not sure I'm going on a 12-game slate, the Jim and Brant Clark at 4,300. I think there's a solid amount of defensive values around the slate that I don't feel overly compelled. Adrian Kempe is my preferred play here. Keep an eye on where he slots in. As long as it's with Kopitar or with Fiala, I trust their chemistry enough that Kempe would be my favorite play of this game. He's been performing quite well shots-wise and not really getting the results. 14 expected fantasy points last 10, only 9 actual. So expecting some positive regression. And as DJ termed it, the cocaine circus is Adrian Kempe's to feast on today. On the Anaheim side, Cutter, Leo, Seneca, as expected last game. What was not expected was Cutter took back the power play 1 job from Seneca. So 3,400 Seneca still remains in play, but I do wonder if he'll be a bit overplayed, just given, Cutter is clearly the offensive engine here. He's the shooter. Leo is the distributor. He's the primary points guy, and he's been shooting a solid amount. You can see 29% better than the league average for forwards so far this year. And that's a huge improvement over last year. So he's really taken that next step in every facet when it comes to fantasy, not just point production, but also shots and just pure offensive involvement on a permanent basis. And his role is through the roof right now. I don't believe Mikael Granlund is expected back, but that's the only other thing that you could even say is like a chink in the armor there for Leo. Seneca has been fine on this line, 3,400. If you mix it in on a top stack or something, that's fine. I'm guessing the total is not going to be crazy. Maybe I should keep those up as well. There's also a nice unabated page for that that I can refer to. Let's see. Combined full game. Yes. So scrolling, where is it? LA Anaheim looks like minus 123 for the Ducks ish and a 6. I guess that's all these weird books with their 6s. I just want to know what DraftKings has. All right, DK has it 6.5 and minus 130 for the Ducks. So yeah, their team total actually pretty high. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm going to consult the Rainbow sheet again real quick. Yeah, Anaheim, a decent pace matchup in terms of shots and whatnot, but the expected goals are pretty middling. The actual goals are just not there. I mean, LA, they're a team I respect defensively. Jude Howdy or not. So maybe right away I'm sort of different from Vegas and therefore the field on my Anaheim interest levels, but we'll see when we circle around at the end. Jackson Lacombe on defense is, I think, another just solid option. I was a Lacombe hater last year. Along with Leo, he's really stepped up his shot attempt game. The points didn't really come until the last couple of games for him, though. So, now the price doesn't reflect what he's actually done. Before, the price didn't reflect what he was expected to do, but hadn't done yet. Now his 4,600 price tag is just sort of, I think, a little bit light, just overall. He's been very good, 9.4 expected and 11.0 actual, though again, the last couple games have been monster games for him. I believe back-to-back 3-point outings. So Jackson Lacombe would clearly be my preferred option over Brant Clark, for example. Otherwise, Zellweger, Trouba, they're both there. They're fine. They'll shoot a bit, and I talked about Trouba a lot, where he's sort of the Edmondson with a bit more flair, and that Zellweger is just so involved offensively. He can set Trouba up to do things, and Trouba's actually executing. And we know in the long term he's a shots plus blocks guy. So I don't mind Jake Trouba if you are stacking Anaheim either, if you can't find the money for Lacombe. Next game, New Jersey Buffalo. As I had mentioned, we are not getting Josh Norris back for the Sabres, so we'll get to their lineup in a second. New Jersey, though, Timo, Hischier, Bratt, no surprise there. Timo was a slate winner on Wednesday. Gritsuk, Mercer, Palat. I should show Nico Flowers too. I think he had a 3.9. Gritsuk, Mercer, Palat, Cotter, Glass, Brown, Nason, Glendening, Lamico. Absolutely nothing out in the bottom 6 here. If Cotter, Glass, Brown gets power play run, I'll consider whichever guy that is. But for now, none of them are. So just a line to keep an eye on for me. I don't really have much interest in Gritsuk and Mercer because, I mean, Timo, Nico, Brat just feels so obvious. Brat should not be more expensive than Timo and Nico, so it's pretty clearly you can one-off Timo, you can play Nico plus Timo, or you can play the full line. I would not do, Nico plus Brat or, whatever. And then you could mix in Dougie Hamilton, though in his return from injury, only 7 expected fantasy points per game. I believe that's in a handful of games, not 10. But a little concerning. He's a guy who we expect long-term to be just fine, though. But the price tag is pretty high at $5,700. So, again, I would be totally fine with just like a Nico Timo type build or a one-off here. Sabres at home have been pretty good this year. Let's see. Does the rainbow chart show anything of interest here? No, not really for this game. Sabres may be allowing a few more goals than they should based on their defense. Story of the Buffalo Sabres, IMO. While the Sabres have been vastly outscoring their offensive production, which has been fine, though New Jersey's been good defensively, and they're getting a little bit goal lead, but not too bad. So on the Sabres side of things, with no Norris back, we did see Benson slide up to the top line in place of Josh Stone last game. So he's 4,600. You can see immediately in red here, which of course you're on YouTube, so this isn't a podcast today. But you can see here that even though Benson's been very good, like just play driving wise, he's not doing any of it himself. He's 30% below the league average forward in terms of shot attempts. And when you consider that he plays power play, he gets offensive minutes with offensive guys, that's just terrible for fantasy. So 4,600 Benson, I guess if you were like, yeah, man, like the Sabres are guaranteed to score 6 goals, then yeah, Benson can get 18 by getting, 3 assists and the 3-point bonus. But like, yeah, a goal and 2 assists gets there on one shot. Like, sure, he could do that. 4,600, I'm not paying to find out. It does make Tage, I think, one of the top plays of the slate. 8,400, he's been unbelievable in terms of his shot rate, and he's finally scoring. I think, I don't think he scored. Yeah, he did not score last game, but I think that broke a 6-game goal streak for him. So he heard me talking shit about his just complete lack of awareness. A 7-game. No, I can't count. Yep, 6-game goal streak there for Tage. So he heard me talking shit about his awareness or whatever and said, yeah, fuck you, I'm going to score anyway. And well played there, Tage. Tuck, not on the top power play. That's a bit troublesome. And I think Zucker and Quinn are just straight up better anyway. You save a couple thousand on DraftKings. So Zucker, McLeod, Quinn, that line is shooting, and that's what you really want to see. Jack Quinn especially. You should have seen the text I was getting about Jack Quinn from DJ on Wednesday night. Turned out he scored. We thought twice, but once, and then Zucker, I guess, got a deflection on the other one. So, but both of those guys are underpriced for top power play roles, especially because, that's actually a good question. I wonder who takes the top comp, who takes that matchup here, if it's McLeod or if it's Tage and Benson. So I'm going to take a quick look on Hockey Viz at this Carolina game. Buffalo beat Carolina Sunday 4-1, so that should be a good sense of who got the Aho matchup for them. All right, Lindy did not do any sort of hard match, so if I had to guess, it goes to Zach Benson, just because, if there were to be a hard match here, it would be Benson. My assumption is that I haven't noticed Lindy do any sort of hard matching, so I think we're good. However, it's worth noting that this New Jersey team is probably the most heavily concentrated top line in the entire league right now, just because of injury and whatnot. So if there were going to be a hard match, you'd expect to see it here. But Zucker, Quinn should get the middle 6 of New Jersey, if my senses are right, or it'll just be a spread out mishmash of whatever. So Zucker, McLeod, Quinn is going to cost you 11.2K. With a 29.6 expected fantasy points over the last 10 and 31.7 actual. That's among the better values of the entire slate. So yeah, it's only a few games for Zucker. He was sick, caught the plague or whatever the hell, had to miss like 2 weeks of hockey. But he's come back and been pretty good. Calgary and Florida. Something that I noticed come across the wire earlier was the Calgary Flames extended like their entire front office before the season started, and they just didn't tell anyone. And that's not unusual, these front office transactions when it comes to contracts and extensions or whatever, they're not always known immediately, and even the terms of them are not known. But it came out today that the team released a statement saying that everyone had received a 2-year contract extension. It's like, oh, okay, that's weird timing, given, this is, if not the worst, the second worst team in the league. And the press release made sure to note that these contracts were signed during the preseason. Just like, hey, we know you're going to be so mad at us. We tried waiting as long as we could to tell you. But clearly someone caught wind of it and was, going to post it or whatever. So the team just released a statement and said, hey, we signed all these guys. Please don't be mad at us. It's not our fault they suck. So well played by the Flames PR staff. Anyway, after their embarrassing performance against the Lightning, I didn't see any practice from yesterday. And I don't think we're going to... let me just take a quick look, because this is a team that I am expecting to have changes, but I don't expect that we'll know them before 3:30. All right, yeah, I don't see anything on Twitter for them. So Sharangovich, Kadri, Farabee, Zari, Backlund, Coleman, Huberdeau, Frost, Coronado, Uyghur, Anderson, the two defensemen of note. Anderson's been very, very good. He's also been playing on the top power play. Uyghur's price, though, has fallen to 4,400. This is a quote-unquote revenge spot. Uyghur does play more minutes than Anderson, usually. So him being cheaper is interesting. You'd expect Uyghur to bounce back in some regards. I mean, this primary point rate is abysmal. And yeah, the team can't score. So, if he's passing the puck the same, they're not scoring. So how is he going to get points? But this is sort of like one of those long-term plays. And you mix in the narrative, returning to Florida. It's been a few years now, but I can't imagine, him and Huberdeau still aren't a little bit stung by the two-time Cup winner trading these two to get their final piece that unlocked the Stanley Cup. So narrative, bounce back, whatever you want to call it. I like Uyghur a bit here just for 4,400. There's a chance he also takes back the top power play. I would not be surprised if that were the case either. Forwards wise, it's Matt Coronado or nothing. He's 5,200. He's been excellent. He's too cheap for what he's been doing. And the fact that he's managing to score while the rest of the team can't do anything, if the team does something around him, then, there's even more upside just in terms of picking up the assists and whatnot. So I did notice Frost lost. Basically, Frost and Kadri flipped last game. So Kadri, Huberdeau, Coronado played together a bit. That would be pretty heavily concentrated. So while we could see that, I'm not expecting it. But that would be also noteworthy. Kadri and Coronado for 12.2K, because both of those guys love to shoot the puck. And if they get some goals, like this Florida team is liking to give up, they could be a sneaky stack. On the Florida side, Reinhart, Rodriguez, Boqvist, Samoskevich, Lindell, Marchand, Verhaeghe, Bennett, Greer is how they played last game. That was their late loss to Philly. So they lost late to Philly. I don't expect there to be a line changes, but because it's off of a loss, we don't know for sure. These lines are all pretty gross. It's a good matchup with Calgary, of course, but you're kind of betting on efficiency, and the prices here feel a little elevated outside of Verhaeghe plus Sam Bennett, 8,800. And these guys have been clicking a bit as of late. AJ Greer, Let me just check the game logs, but he's popped in at least one of the last couple games. So 2,500, you probably could do worse. Yeah, last 5 games, 13, 7, 5, 37. So not terrible. 3 shots in each of those games for AJ Greer. He could do something. I don't think you need a 11.3K line, but if you do, here you go. That's what I would do here. I don't really want to spend up 15K for the Samoskevich Lindell Marchand line or 12.7 for a line featuring both Erod and Jesper Boqvist. Samson is always in play. You mix him with a power play dude or two, fine. But I think for Hagee Bennett is where I would go. Philly and the Islanders. Philly running Tippett, Dvorak, Zegras, Michkov, Couturier, Brink, Konechny, Cates, Forster. The power plays, Tippett, Michkov, Brink, Sanheim, Andre, and then Zegras, York, Konechny, Cates, Forster. So a perfectly correlated Konechny, Cates, Forster line. Forster's been pretty good. Cates and Konechny have been slightly better in their expecteds, but not getting the results. Yeah, the Islanders are a pretty fun matchup. I've been saying this over and over again. Now, I played David Pastrnak and Zacha on Wednesday, and they got clowned so hard by the Islanders. They missed the Friday game here against the Rangers. So, what do I know? The Islanders absolutely schooled Boston. Philly on the road, not going to be the most appealing spot, but Michkov is 3,200. He scored again last game. I don't know. I don't really know what else to do. He's got 6 goals in 22 games, 11 points in 22 games. It's not been a good year. He played 12 minutes last game against Florida. He's also 3,200 in a prime power play spot. Like, if you really wanted to play him, I can't blame you. And if you wanted to bet on him, whatever, like I honestly think it's fine. Like, his lines are just so crazy relative to where he ended last year. And that's because of the time on ice. But again, it's priced in. So the smart play is probably the Konechny's ever the smart play, 4,800 and priced up on the markets. But Tyson Forster, let's go with that. He's running a bit hot right now, but I know Wookie had a thing for him in the past, so maybe the Wookie is giving Forster some of that charm that he needs at the moment. And this Philly team is good. Like, they're not a fantasy good team, but like they're solid. So last guy actually, Emil Andre, playing in the top 4. He had a great game last time out, goal and an assist. But he's like super store brand. Well, he's a little guy. You can't call every little guy Quinn Hughes, but because he's on the power play, I'm trying to think of the right comp, but he's like a water bug out there. You'll always notice him. Maybe your store brand Zellweger. I think that's a good approximation. Doesn't have like the crazy stats in the minors or anything like that, like Zellweger did, but you watch him stylistically, he's getting involved. He will shoot. We have years of him being a slightly above average shooter. And he's playing with Drysdale, who we know won't shoot and has been so offensively inept that he lost his power play job. So, like, Andre's sort of taking over that mantle for the minimum salary. I have no problem with him as a one-off either. And you get there some, Michkov exposure, and, you fill in your lineup a bit more sensibly. If you just truly need to punt a spot, I think Andre's a good option. The Islanders side, I don't expect changes. Obviously, they just boat raced the Bruins. Actually, no, they won. Or sorry, the Bruins won, but they got absolutely clobbered. That's right. I forgot about that. I was just so taken aback by my Pastrnak failing at like 0.2% on that slate that hold on. Let me just 3.1 expected to 1.9. Swayman, I think, made 44 saves. So I guess what happened is the Islanders got goalied last game. So all of this, I guess, could change, which is a long way for me to get there. Just refreshing the Twitter list. All right. Don't see anything new. I have some interest in Heinemann, Horvat, Palmieri once again, but 15.6K, it's tough to get there. Palmieri's cooled off a good amount. Despite putting up strong expected fantasy point numbers, just not really getting there. Barzal, Drew, and Lee was like 10% on a 15 game slate on Wednesday night. I don't know why. I guess it's 14K, but I'm guessing ownership gets there in some form once again. And Schaefer is a bit overpriced for a matchup with Philly, where I just don't think much happens here. If I wanted to punt, Shabanov, but again, like Michkov is on the other side for 600 more. And if you're talking about limited minutes and whatnot, like why not just take the guy who we've seen do it for, for a full season or at least half a season? You can't argue that in Michkov, being a solid fantasy producer. So yeah, not a very exciting game there. Vancouver at San Jose. Vancouver coming off of a fun win against Anaheim. I really appreciated how Anaheim was like 30% owned again, like 14, 15 game slate. They lost the game and still were just optimal. So, shout out to Vancouver for just, I guess, doing just enough to win while still absolutely decimating the game theory field. Kane, Pettersson, DeBrusk, Besser, Camp, Garland is how they won last game. We saw notes that Drew O'Connor, Sasson, Sherwood, and McEachran, Reichel, Carlson would be lines 3 and 4. I'm actually not sure if it's McEachran or some other idiot, but basically Atu Ratu is a scratch, so not a big deal though. Kane, Pettersson, DeBrusk against San Jose, 17.4K. You may recall Evander Kane doesn't really like the San Jose Sharks that much. They just straight up actually I'm trying to remember now the details. He got caught faking a vaccine card, and then they basically just caught him because they were sick of paying him money. And I don't remember if I think they had to pay him out, and basically Evander won his appeal against them, and then that money went to his creditors because the bankruptcy thing. But in any case, Evander Kane is doing Evander Kane things. He's just shooting an absolute fuck ton. Every time he gets the puck, it's going on net. And he's playing with Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, who are more than happy to give him the puck. So while Pettersson, DeBrusk are, of course, better options just because they're on the top power play and everything else, Evander is so unlikely to truly hurt you because, if Vancouver does well and Pettersson, DeBrusk do get there, Evander's probably getting a shots bonus, or he's picking up an assist, or both. That I just really struggle to see him lagging super far behind Pettersson, DeBrusk. So this top line is absolutely where I want to be looking on Vancouver. I have no interest in Brock Besser now that he's back up to 5K. Connor Garland is 5.3K. I just think David Kampf is such a black hole that there's really no reason to just not go to Kane DeBrusk for a similar price tag. Because Pettersson and Quinn Hughes just play together. We saw it last game too. Quinn Hughes plays more, so he'll get around with everyone. But if Pettersson's out there, it's almost always with Quinn Hughes. So that's a nice little run. Tom Willander, 2,500, a punt defenseman. He's been slightly above average at everything in limited minutes so far this year. Power play 2. You could make an argument for him, but you probably just find the 800 for Filip Hronek if you want to take a guy against the Sharks for your punt defenseman. And otherwise, Linus Karlsson continues to produce in no minutes. I would love to see him move up with Besser Garland, for example, but I don't think we'll be that lucky anytime soon. So David Kampf it is. I mean, just what a team. Top line or nothing, Vancouver. All right, we've got some chat. Oh boy, Ben is really going through it right now. If you could see the situation going on around me in order for me to be tuning in right now. Call me Elf one more time. Okay, yep, it's Christmas season. Okay, now he's getting back to hockey. God damn it. Askarov has been a fun click over the last month. One bad game against the Avs wagon, only blemish. I'm sorry, what? He is over 8K for the. What is the line on this game? Hold on. Hold on just a second. Hold, please. Vancouver. The Sharks are favored. Slightly. Very, very slightly. The Sharks are favored against Vancouver. Yeah, I think the horse has left the barn. I don't know. I don't really see it. The rainbow sheet doesn't really have too much separation between these two teams, so I guess San Jose at home. I guess the rainbow sheet could agree with that sentiment. So okay, that price tag is still pretty interesting. And yes, please don't badmouth San Jose one. I can't have that line at 20% going off. Yeah, I do not know ownership. I have not looked even, so I will try to put that together, after the show. But if San Jose is going to be chalky, I mean, my God, like just everyone has lost their goddamn minds. So yes, apologies in advance to everyone now who's mad at me about this. Vancouver, yeah, I just don't understand the 8,100 price tag on Askarov. That's the real thing here. Like, if you wanted to tell me San Jose's chalk and whatever the fuck else because each of these teams have a 5.2 total, like fine, like that's fine. I get it, but the price tag on Askarov is pretty ridiculous. So congratulations to the shutout, San Jose fans. Eklund, Celebrini, Smith on the San Jose side. Not expecting any changes, though we could get them. They got absolutely schooled by Colorado. So the change that I have them making is the Dickinson-Desharnais pair out and Leddy Klingberg in. That could screw up the power plays. Orlov and Klingberg, that is what it is. But we just don't know. So Eklund, I've talked about him a lot. I think he's pretty much just a guy with pretty good playmaking chops. And then Celebrini, Will Smith are excellent. So if I were doing something, I would probably look at Celebrini, Smith, and especially if Klingberg doesn't play, Dmitry Orlov, and just kind of hope for that power play correlation. Or if you don't want Eklund, Tyler Toffoli's 800 less, and he's not slated to be on the power play with them, but I would be pretty surprised if Toffoli was this bad for the entire year. Let me see how many games he's played. I'm trying to keep the entire league in my head, and I feel like that number is based on pretty small samples. Or at least I hope so. Nope, 10 games and he's been awful. Okay, well, maybe not. That's real tough. The role hasn't been there for him. He's been bouncing around the middle six, so that's always going to hurt. But yeah, Celebrini Smith might be the only spot I go. But yeah, I prefer the Vancouver side myself. You could sell me on something where if you wanted to play Kane, DeBrusque, Hughes, and then you just found the 900 for Macklin Celebrini, I could see that getting there. I don't really, Celebrini plus Smith, even that fits just fine, like in a little game stack build. I don't think you need to play Elias Pettersson, but he's been good. Like, he's not been excellent. He's not really shooting, a ton on the year, but he's blocking shots. Like, unless there's like a scorekeeper thing where like the scorekeepers are just crediting him with, fake Pettersson's block shots, which honestly would be pretty funny if so. But Pettersson's one of the best shot blockers among forwards in the league. He's playing like 25 minutes a night now. Yeah, the point production per minute hasn't been there. The shot rate's not there, but like he's doing enough, I think, for 7,100 to warrant consideration. But Celebrini's better. I don't think that's telling tales out of school here. All right, Ottawa at St. Louis. I did some sleuthing around, and it seems like everyone's pretty much in agreement that David Perron will exit the top line, go to the Cousins-Zetterlund line, and that frees up Lars Eller to go from that line to playing 4C. They sent down Stephen Halliday to the AHL earlier today, so that seems pretty accurate. No change expected to Giroux, Pinto, Amadio, so that should mean we get a perfectly correlated Kachuk, Stützle, Batherson line in St. Louis against the Blues. 19.9K for Kachuk, Stützle, Batherson. Stützle's been awesome. Like relative to preseason expectations, I've been pretty impressed. I wonder if that shot rate was a factor of like, oh, Kachuk's out, someone's got to shoot, therefore it'll be me, and if he'll sort of revert back to his below average shooting ways, or if that's here to stay and Brady Kachuk just profiles differently. Basically, he'll clean up the rebounds now that weren't being cleaned up before. If you sort of lean toward the latter, this stack, I believe, should be one of the top stacks of the night. Play it before you see it with Brady is sort of my mindset. And while it's possible they're rushing him because he really wants to play in St. Louis, I think they waited for him to come back until St. Louis because they've been doing decently well. I think they're the only Canadian team in a playoff by points percentage right now. Barely, but still. Wherever I was going with that is they've been pretty good. They need some offensive juice, and this top line is now fairly juiced. So, yeah, I mean, Tom has it. Ottawa St. Louis has to be in contention for most boring matchup. But if all the boring is, concentrated on one line, I think that is in consideration. That's just sort of the way that the fantasy point distribution works. So, pretty intrigued here. I'm definitely intrigued by like Batherson point props. Maybe let's just take a look. Are they offering anything interesting on him? Also, there's a DraftKings goal scorer boost, something or other. So I will be looking into that later as well to try and put something little out there. Anytime goal plus 265 for Batherson on DraftKings. Best line looks like 270 Fanatics, so I'd be fine using him in the boost on DK. Stützle, 220, 230 on FanDuel. And then I think Kachuk's offered. Yeah, Kachuk's offered plus 165. So yeah, I prefer Batherson there. I think Brady just makes the power play function better than like a Claude Giroux does because Brady's a little underappreciated for his power play below the goal line playmaking. And I think that really helps someone like Batherson, who's pretty reliant on one-timers to get his, to score. Stützle, he's going to have the puck, but I think that's mostly a Stützle point, Batherson goal thing, if I had to gauge the impact of Brady Kachuk being back. The St. Louis side. We also have a perfectly correlated top line in St. Louis, though it features Pavel Buchnevich and Robert Thomas, so not nearly as much fun. But that top line of Buchnevich, Thomas, Kyrou, 13.7K. Just crazy if you knew how last year ended and, you saw this line in the preseason, you're like, yeah, man, like this price, like that's pretty fire. No, it's absolutely not fire. Ottawa's been awesome defensively. I expect that line to match up with Kachuk, which therefore means they get Jake Sanderson. Holloway, Dvorsky, Neighbors. Middle six gets the lesser D pairings. Shen, Suter, Snuggerud as well. But those guys, none of these guys have been good this year, but I prefer the second line, if anything. Jake Neighbors gets some power play time, and Dylan Holloway is better than, Jamie Snuggerud or whatever. But that's not saying much because, yeah, this team has been a fantasy wasteland. Cam Fowler, 3,200, will play a bunch of minutes, is average per minute, 3,200 with a power play job, a lot of minutes. You could see that paying off, but I would really try to get in like a Buchnevich or Kyrou or even Neighbors if trying to play Cam Fowler, just because I don't think he gets to 20 without St. Louis having a good game. All right, Ben is infiltrating the chat with ownership talk. Celebrini, Barzell, Fantilli, Kent Johnson, and Klingberg. Okay. Interesting. Why Barzell? I don't get it. What am I missing? Like, he's been good, but like he's Matt Barzell. He's not Alex Ovechkin. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Well, I guess keep that in mind because seems like the Flyers might be some leverage off of the chalk. Montreal at Vegas. Is this game at 5? I think this game's at 5 Eastern. Wait, where is this game? Nope, it's at 4 Eastern. Okay. I think this is maybe the last 4 o'clock Eastern game. Caulfield, Suzuki, Bolduc. Bolduc scored last game, so he's been pretty bad, but he's back. Back top line, top power play, 3,900. You kind of got to ride the dragon, but we know from his time in St. Louis, he's a good fantasy player. He's playing with the 2 best fantasy players that Montreal has to offer. So even though the performance hasn't been good, you kind of got to just believe in Bolduc if you want to play him. So I have no problem playing him, even as a one-off, honestly. Caulfield and Suzuki are so expensive. They cost 13.7 combined that, like, yeah, does Bolduc score 40 without them getting there? Like, no, but can Bolduc score 15 while Caulfield and Suzuki put up, 20 combined fantasy points? Like, I think that's possible. So not a real problem going a one-off there. The matchup, though, is pretty brutal. Slavkovsky, Kapanen, Demidov, Jack Guy, Evans, Anderson, Davidson, Veleno, Gallagher. Absolutely nothing here. So it's top line or nothing, and really it's Zach Bolduc or fade because I don't really want to stack Montreal against Vegas. Matheson, 4K. He got a new contract. Shout out to him. Saw some concerning stuff that he's got the highest on ice shooting percentage of any player in the league this year, which is pretty funny. But hey, strike while the iron's hot, get that money. Vegas, though, with Mark Stone back, I mean, this lineup is just a terror. I don't know where you. I mean, honestly, you strike them by if Braden Bowman decides to just not be Mark Stone, like Barbashev, Eichel, Bowman is probably your best bet to like really find a leaky spot because again, it's not happened yet, but I don't think Braden Bowman's an NHLer, so maybe that happens defensively here. Maybe that's a sign for Bolduc. I don't know. Marner, Howden, Stone. I mean, Jesus Christ, that terror defensively. And then Dorofeyev, Hurdle, Sod. I guess, but you look at Montreal's third line, and I don't think Kapanen and Demidov, Slavkovsky is going out against anyone but Mark Stone. I'll be honest. So if Cassidy wants to feed them a good matchup, then sure. But I'm not buying that. So if I had to pick a line here, it'd be Howden, Marner, Stone. Marner and Stone both on the top power play, 14,000. When you get 2 passers like Marner and Stone, someone's got to shoot. Maybe it's a defenseman, but ultimately, Brett Howden scored a beauty last game. I think he's an interesting NHL player, and Montreal middle six is a defensive matchup that I will always be interested in capitalizing on. So that's what I would do. If you want to power play stack it, go right on ahead. It's quite expensive though. Jack Eichel's 9,200. And yes, this is Hurdle, Dorofeyev getting so that was the main thing I noticed is that with Mark Stone healthy, Hurdle and Dorofeyev just got absolutely shit canned as far as time on ice goes. They played a tight game against Ottawa, ultimately lost in a shootout, and they just didn't play. Like it was if it was less than 15 minutes for sure. Okay, Shams here hitting Toronto News. Damn. Okay, we'll get to them in a second. Then that's useful. Winnipeg at Carolina. Winnipeg losing in Washington the other night. I don't believe we saw a practice from them, even though they're a Canadian team. So these could change. But Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, Pearson, Nemesnikov, Perfetti, Niederreiter, Lowry, Iafallo, Barron, Taze, Nyquist. With no Neil Pionk, Colin Miller stepped in to power play 2. He played 19 minutes, actually more minutes than this Solomonson guy. So Colin Miller is just made in the lab for fringe DFS viability. So That's the thing. I think Winnipeg's playing this Milich guy. I might have spelled his name wrong, so my apologies to his family. Yeah, it's not. It's Thomas. I shouldn't say normal way, but any goalie against Carolina is interesting. Thomas Milich, pretty young. I think he's like 22, 23. Had a fine year in the AHL, and he's been in the AHL for the last few years and been fine. I don't think he's been all that good though, and I don't think there's much pedigree there. So, goalie talk though, cheap goalies against Carolina, always an option. I think Winnipeg's better defensively than they've shown. Does Neil Pionk being out change that? Slightly, but I think it's more important that Sandberg, Lowry, etc. are back in the lineup. So, top power play offensively, just not the matchup for taking top power play guys. And there's nothing else in Winnipeg that you really want to grab. So for me, it's Colin Miller punt, or you just kind of move on or play a goalie or whatever. And then similarly on the Carolina front, we finally saw Seth Jarvis score. I shouted out that he's probably been on the worst 10-game run of his life in the NHL as far as like fantasy performance goes. With that goal last game, he looked slightly better, but over the last 10, 8.3 expecteds and 8.4 actual fantasy points per game. That pales in comparison to Svechnikov and Aho. So, you can kind of see it on the season-long stats. He's not as much of a rate shooter as Aho, though I guess it's not a surprise looking at the last 3 years either. So maybe I was doing some mental inflation of Seth Jarvis, given some of his, league-wide chatter about being awesome, because he is awesome. I just don't think he's much of a fantasy asset. And for that top line, 19.4K, I don't have much interest in it. 20.5K for Winnipeg, I honestly think I would prefer that in this game. If you want to save some money though, 15K, Ehlers, Stankoven, and Blake, like that's not going to be power on power like the first line would get. And with no Neil Pionk, maybe there's some lacking defense work going on. Just a thought. I don't have a ton of interest in Carolina myself. I never do. And then I think we're safe from Jordan Staal returning. So let me just quickly check his name. Still listed day to day. Yeah. So I guess we don't know. Or maybe we do, but I haven't seen it yet. But that would mean that these top two lines get just substantially more minutes than usual. So there's nothing in the bottom six worth mentioning. Shane Gostisbehere defensively has been very good. I don't think it's a surprise. I think what has been a surprise is just how much better he's been offensively than, even in years past. Obviously, the primary point rate is unsustainable. He's nearly 4 times the league average primary point rate for a defenseman. But in his career, he's almost last 3 years, he's almost at 2 times that rate. He's getting more minutes now with all these injuries. And his shot rate has really boosted up. 38% better than league average in the long term. And that's up to 61% better this year. So Shane Gostisbehere, 4,900. I would argue he's even a one-offable defenseman. You could play Ehlers, Gostisbehere, get a little power play stack. You can play Svechnikov. You can play top line plus Gostisbehere. Like, it's all fine, but I think Gostisbehere alone is what I would actually be building this Carolina team around. All right, getting to the 7 o'clock games. We do have line rushes for, I think, all these teams. Obviously, we just now got the Staal. Okay, Staal is out. Staal, okay. All right. Oh, boy. What am I getting? All right, more messages here. Let's figure it out. Warren Fogle won't play today in Anaheim. That's a Corey Perry boost, if I've ever seen one. So we'll see where he slots in at 3:30, but my guess is that's a big boon for Corey Perry, who's already power play 1. Did I watch Vegas Ottawa? First time I've seen them to play Hanifin with Eichel. Theodore is with Stone and Marner. I did not catch that. That's interesting. I don't think it's a big deal though, personally. I just think both of those pairs are pretty good. But yeah, interesting for stacking at the very least. And then, yeah, Ghost and Milich. Yeah, that was based on practice yesterday where he did. It was like something. It was really something silly. It was like who was it? There was like some guy always shoots a bunch of pucks on the next game starting goalie at the end of practice, and that happened to be Milich. It's one of those silly things where like, could this just be a one-off and it's actually Eric Comrie? Sure. But interesting nonetheless. Okay. We have, I don't think anything else. So let's get back to Toronto. Yes, sorry, just a moment, please. And yeah, all right, we're good to go. Just making sure there was no silly football shit because that game starts at 3. Because why? I don't know. I guess they really just they saw the NHL was starting all the games at 4, and they're like, hey, let's figure this out. All right, whatever. I played a $200 guy in Travis Homer, who I don't know if he's playing or not, but the show must go on. So I will stop trying to search idiots' names that make no sense because he's literally just going to play special teams and nothing else. But Toronto, we're not expecting William Nylander. We are expecting Dakota Joshua. That would mean Max Domi stays in the lineup because he was the guy who we were expecting to be a scratch. We had power plays from yesterday. Let me see if we have Barry and Anaheim. Never seen more of a lock. Yep, narrative. There you go. Got it. All right, let me find these Toronto units from yesterday because they were pretty interesting. And now that we know that Nylander's out, that's actually, I think, a relatively big deal because unless they change it, there was some fairly interesting stuff going on here. All right, Nyes Matthews. There's got to be a power play in here somewhere, right? Okay, September 21st. That's not useful. Nope, the 20th. God damn it. I'm going to have to go all the way through their Twitter page. All right, here we go. Matthews and then Domi Michelli sort of splitting Nylander's role. Cowan, Tavares, Nyes. So no defenseman, which I have marked here. And then Ekman Larson, Riley, Nick Robertson, McMahon, and Nick Waugh. So, I guess I'm not double counting someone, right? It was either Michelli or Domi that was out. So whichever one of those guys does play, do we know? Is Michelli hurt? Is there something there that I'm missing that would make it more obvious? No, I'm not seeing anything. Okay, Michelli just hasn't played since the 22nd. So let's just assume for now it is Max Domi. I would think that he stays in the top 6 and plays power play 1. If anything, I think it would be Nick Robertson or a defenseman joining that unit again. So I guess we can't be for sure because I don't think this was done with the intention of Nylander being out. But now that we know that, Max Domi's interesting. John Tavares takes a huge hit. He was already expensive at 7,800 in a pretty tough matchup, so not really there for me. But then Nyes Matthews Robertson, 18.8K for an Austin Matthews line with a power play mate. I don't think there'll be any ownership here, but I could be somewhat intrigued. But all right, Nylander being out, I think I've come to the conclusion that given the matchup, I'm just not interested in chasing any of it. So there's your official take. The Washington side looks like we also just got Dowd confirmed out. All right, I don't know where the hell you are, but got handed a bomb breakfast burrito. Let's go. I mean, just I hope it's someone you know handing you said breakfast burrito, buddy. All right. And yeah, Dowd. Did I not just see Dowd was out? Okay, it wasn't in the chat, so I think I just saw it on Twitter. So keeping these lines though, Ovi, Strom, Bavillier, 16K. Protas, Sordif, Wilson, 13K. Duhane, McMichael, Leonard, 10K. Yeah, Toronto's been, really bad defensively. I think that's somewhat explainable by Matthews and Nyes being out. Yes, thank you, Shams. I thought I saw that. But at these prices, I mean, Jake Chikrin is still one of the best defensive play on the board. Cal McCarr's not on the slate because he's in the showdown, and Quinn Hughes is in a very good spot, but Chikrin just shoots more, so I think he's still got a safer floor than Quinn Hughes with similar explosive upside. You can play whatever Washington line you want, and again, I think they're better with Matthews in the lineup, but are they good? I think that's a good question. So I'd be totally fine taking stabs on Washington line stacks, especially, this ownership didn't have, ownership didn't have any Washington guys in it. So I would be surprised if Chikrin weren't like a super popular defenseman, but hey, I can't tell the computers what to say for projections. Tom Wilson, 5,400, Ryan Leonard, 3,700, Ovi, 6,800. Those would, of course, be the guys to build around. My preferred method would be something like McMichael, Leonard, Chikrin, Sordif, Wilson, Chikrin, Ovi, Strom, Chikrin. Just sort of do like a 3-man stack with the center. I think that's your best way to go about it, but I have a lot of interest in all sorts of Washington stuff here. At home against a still bad, banged up Toronto team. All right, Pittsburgh, Columbus, 2 more games, and then we'll loop back to it. Nope, 3 more games, and then we will loop back to the Colorado-Minnesota game. Now that we're, I think, reaching good timing on that. Pittsburgh, we do not know the lineup. So Crosby, Rust, Malkin, Carlson, Kindle were the power play 1 this morning in morning skate. Koivunen, Novak, Letang, Hayes, Mantha were the power play 2. So all of those guys are in. We could see Connor Dewar move off the top line. My guess is that would be for someone like Ben Kindle. Right now, I have Kindle replacing Tristan Brose. I think what happened last game was they weren't expecting Brian Rust to be back, so they told Tristan Brose to bring his family out, and then Brian Rust was in. So they were like, well, shit, we can't scratch him after we, had him make his NHL debut and brought his family in. So they said, hey, Ben Kindle, like you're a young guy, go take a break. And we're going to say it's for your development plan and no one's bad. Everyone's happy. We're not scratching anyone. It's just sort of like this thing. And, Kindle's a rookie. So I think he just kind of took it on the chin last game. But they won and are still making the change to bring him back in. So I think that just means Brose is going back out. Obviously, a 4th liner could get the dump and Brose goes there. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The real important thing is if Kindle, Crosby, Rust is a line against Columbus, that's pretty interesting. It's less interesting with Connor Dewar, of course. He's just not great. But I think Connor Dewar is fine. So, 18K top line with Dewar. That's only so expensive because Crosby and Rust are very expensive. So Dewar keeps the pricing a bit lower. Carlson, 6,100. I think Pittsburgh's a little bit overpriced for me. It's really, I really land on it. If anything, Mantha, Malkin, Hayes, 12.4K. But Hayes is like 100 years old. So, Gino at least still has it. I don't think Hayes does whatsoever. But keep an eye on that because I think Ben Kindle could move up. That could be interesting, especially at super low ownership. Columbus side, same lines were confirmed. So those lines last game were Voronkov, Fantilli, Johnson, Sillinger, Monahan, Pinelli, Wood, Coyle, Lundestrom, Aston Reese, Gauntz, and Chinikov. Voronkov, Fantilli, Johnson cost 14K, perfectly power play 1 correlated. Fantilli, one of the best plays of the night. Clearly, the field is getting there, given he's in the top 5 of ownership on a 12 game main slate. Yeah, 12 games. All right. So Fantilli is a very good play. Werenski, I guess, sorry. I said the Chikrin thing and totally forgot about Zach Werenski. Werenski is the best fantasy defenseman, not named Kel McCarr right now. So I got to show flowers to him. But Werenski, nearly a must play if you're playing Fantilli, in my opinion. Otherwise, I like Luca Pinelli, 2,500, kind of interesting, but I don't think Cole Sillinger and Sean Manahan are in any sort of position to elevate him offensively. So you're really digging at the bottom of the barrel there for 11K line, where Sean Monahan has just not been good. He's been dealing with an injury apparently, which should have been assumed, but like now we know with 100% certainty he is. So if he just rediscovers last year's form, he's a slam dunk. Pinelli's really good, but yeah, just it's a little gross. But I'm not ruling it out. Utah and Dallas. Let's take a look. I know I had the rainbow chart showing this game is fairly interesting. Yes. 5.8 expected goal pace behind only Vancouver, San Jose, and Calgary, Florida. We talked about why Calgary was sort of fake in that respect because they have no talent. So Utah, Dallas, maybe a sneaky-ish spot to pull from. On the Utah road side, Keller, Hayton, Schmaltz, Yamamoto, Cooley, Gunther, Krause, McBain, Paterka. Sean Durzi back in the lineup for Utah. He had like a first period blocks bonus, I think, on Wednesday against Montreal. So that was cool. He's 3K. He's just a guy who kind of rocks for fantasy. You look at his per minute stuff, and like over the long term, he's basically Mikhail Sergachev. That might say more about Mikhail Sergachev than it does Durzi, in all honesty, because Sergachev is just kind of a compiler. But Durzi at 3K is immediately interesting. The only concern is that Nate Schmidt kept the second power play job. I guess after a guy in the second power play and Logan Cooley scores 4 goals, you don't change anything, even if the power play wasn't the reason Cooley scored 4 goals. But you would expect over the long term, Sean Durzi gets the power play role back. He would get Logan Cooley and JJ Paterka to play with on that power play. So if that's here, given a matchup with Dallas, I mean, I don't have a ton of respect for Dallas defensively. We've talked over and over again about how injured they are and how it's their power play that's elevating them right now. Sean Durzi, Paterka, those two guys I think are in very, very good spots for a combined 6,300 DraftKings dollars. I would almost go as far to say that Durzi and Paterka, like Paterka goal bet or something, would be of interest. Just the depth stuff here is just very interesting to me. And I think Durzi's just better, but maybe there's not enough upside here with Nate Schmidt potentially staying on the power play too for now, until we actually see it to really buy in on. Hayton remains 3,100. He's finally scored last game. Is my brain correct in that? Yes, he finally scored last game. Played 18 minutes, had 2 shots on goal. So not a ton of volume there, but 3,100 playing with Keller, Schmaltz. Their prices are falling, so 15K for that fully correlated top line. That's pretty nice. Dylan Gunther, 5,900. The minutes are a concern once again for him, but you would think at some point you would see a regular 18, 19 minute a night guy. He played 19 minutes last game, so like maybe. But yeah, hard to really say that Gunther is a better option than Keller Schmaltz. Should also mention Clayton Keller should play in this game. He found out that his father passed away last night, so I expect him to stay with the team given the reporting. But yeah, tough situation. And all the best to Keller. But in this spot, doing it for pops, 15K. I think that's a pretty good line stack, regardless of the narrative situation. But keep an eye on that for news. Dallas side, Mikko Rantanen returned from 1-game suspension, played the vast majority of his 5-on-5 time with Jamie Benn. So I've moved Benn up with Johnston, Rantanen. Robertson, Hintz, Sagan stays the same. And then Steele, Foxa, Blackwell, who comes in for Nate Bastion, and then Beck, Ritzkovian, and Maverick Bork. J-Rob is just doing everything right now. Even Miko has fallen off. Miko's at 9.6 expected and 9.9 actuals last 10 games. Wyatt, 10.2, 9.3. Rupe, 9.2, 10.4. Even Miro, 8.4, 9.9. It's fine. Nothing special. J-Rob, 16.3, 19.6 actual fantasy points per game last 10. J-Rob is on a fucking mission right now. J-Rob may be the top play of the night. If he's not being top 5 ownership, like, yeah, I think you just play J-Rob and figure out the rest. Like, Tage is there at that price range. Bedard's there at that price range. Werenski. I mean, Eichel's more expensive. I don't see why J-Rob is not like the best play of the night here. He's just been doing everything. There's no holes right now in his fantasy profile, and the role is insane. No guys returning from injury to change that, like Matt Duchene or whatever. So, yeah, consider my flag planted on Jason Robertson. Last game before we loop back to the showdown here, Nashville-Chicago. Nashville changed pretty much every lineup. Stamkos, O'Reilly, Evangelista, Forsberg, Haula, Marchessault, Bunting, McCarron, Weisblatt, Reed Schaefer, Svechkov, and Matthew Wood. Reed Schaefer makes his NHL debut. He was a first rounder. They received him as part of the Ekholm trade, I believe. So he pretty good AHLer, not a huge volume shooter, but he's on a line with Matthew Wood. So kind of on a line with their best player. Though, does that mean he plays 8 minutes? Probably. What's been interesting is that I yelled at DJ on, Tuesday night. I was like, hey, like, Stamkos, Marchessault, Forsberg, like, they're going to use them first on the power play. You got one power play last game. It doesn't matter who they went out first. And they got many more power plays against Detroit on Wednesday. And Evangelista, Haula, Bunting, Wood, Blankenberg played like all of them first. And they produced. So kudos, got to submit my apologies. These power play guys are all super cheap. Evangelista, 3,200. He's been great alongside Ryan O'Reilly. Is that because of Philip Forsberg? Possibly. But Steven Stamkos is 3,400. So you could stack that full line for 11.3K. Haula has been fine. He's 3K now playing with Philip Forsberg. 7,100 Forsberg. 3,800 Marchessault. Like, if they're going to find anything in a matchup with Chicago, this is the spot. Bunting, McCarron, Weisblatt is kind of like their de facto fourth line, and then Schaefer, Svechkov, Wood is their de facto kid line. If they're winning, these guys just don't play. So a little bit concerned there. Maybe some late slate interest in the bottom 6, but for right now, it's Nick Blankenberg, 2,800, and then it's the top 6 forwards. Roman Yossi's been shooting, but he's 6,400. Jake Chikrin's right there. I don't see the need to play a Nashville Predator. When Chikrin is a possibility. So I have some interest in the Nashville top 6. I don't know where exactly. I would take a look at Evangelista props if betting. Like, that would sort of be my main lean. But yeah, let's get to Chicago and wrap this up. 11-7 look for them. Jason Dickinson in the lineup. So expect him, Nazar, Bedard to play a lot of the center minutes. Expect Colton Dock and Oliver Moore to mix in throughout the lineup. And then expect a lot of Connor Bedard, because Bedard with Green and Burakovsky, pretty good. Bedard's been awesome. Doesn't need teammates to do anything, apparently. They just need to be on the ice for Bedard to be unlocked. Teravainen, Nazar, Bertuzzi. Bertuzzi now 5,800. He's been pretty much the sole beneficiary of Bedard's awesome performances. Like, all of his primary assists are just Bertuzzi goals. So maybe Burakovsky is interesting, but 5,300, like, I don't know. I think it's Bedard or nothing. And then Mikheyev, Dickinson, Donato, like, yeah, that's not very appealing. Defensively, Levshinov, but with 7 defensemen, the minutes are pretty limited here for everyone except Alex Vlasic, who's not a fantasy guy whatsoever. So not a ton of interest in Chicago, honestly. With Bedard, obviously I'm interested in him, but Burakovsky's not as interesting as Bertuzzi. And all of these secondary guys, Teravainen, Bertuzzi, Burakovsky, are priced up, while I expect Frank Nazar to move to power play 2 with Burakovsky back in. All right. Now, oh boy. Ben, guarantee of the night. Yossi outscoring Chikrin tonight. Here we go. People are pretty interested in Nashville in the chat here, so that's interesting. All right, some other comments. I think that was the Utah-Dallas game. Pucklick has the over on this total as play of the day. That's cool. All right, Hartman is back, but third line, top 6 stays the same. That inserts a lot of volatility for Yurov's role specifically, so I guess that just sort of hurts everything in the game because it makes you less certain where stuff is coming through. Anything else that I can think of? No, I'll just pop open the showdown slate if anyone's playing it and take a look. But I think it's just a McKinnon type build is what you're gonna want. I don't have the prices loaded in here for Chicago, for Colorado, Minnesota. So, and I don't feel obligated with 12 minutes until that game locks to really go through all the steps needed to showcase it. So, all right. Anything else people want to discuss? Let's see. How do we? I just noticed. Does this camera look like sideways? Am I like in a slanted room? That's interesting. Yes, thanks for joining. I guess you'll see this when you're finished rewinding. But yeah, lock is in 40 minutes. I'm expecting some news, so make sure you're in the Moin Escape Podcast Discord. Whatever we see will be in there. That will be, again, over the next probably 20 minutes or so is when I'll do a sweep of all the 4 o'clock games and post what hasn't already been posted. If you're not in the Discord, please DM me. It's free. We just don't post a link publicly because we get all sorts of bots and terrible people. Tom says, did Anaheim have a skate since last game? I know they had at least a few shifts of McTavish and Leo swap to their OG lines. No skate, so we're not sure. Just need to keep an eye on that. And then top stacks, guaranteed goals, of course. That will be how we close this out. So, top stacks of the night, I am going to go with Vancouver 1. I just think Askarov at 8,100 is kind of insane. So I kind of like the idea of playing, I think all 4 is my preference. But, with Quinn Hughes. But I think my idea of game stacking it with Celebrini over Elias Pettersson with Will Smith, and then playing Kane, DeBrusque, Quinn Hughes, just to sort of allow you to play another 2-man stack somewhere else. I think that's pretty interesting. So I do like that stack. Utah 1, pretty interesting, especially now that Jay's stuff agrees with it. I know the rainbow chart. Basically Jay's made a bunch of changes to his site, and one of the things that goes into the rainbow chart I've had to adapt. But I asked him, and he seems to be getting the normal output I use for projections back in the fold. So I'm quite interested to see where that top line actually projects from a fantasy standpoint, because 15K for Keller, Hayton, Schmaltz just feels really, really solid. All right. We only know D pairs for Anaheim. Nylander, yep, we knew that. Yep, Anaheim. Anaheim's at home, so we should get lines in pregame skate. And then, yeah, Shams has it. So, yeah, and then guarantee a couple goals. Let's see. We have, I'll shout out actually, let's do this. Guaranteed goal, Drake Batherson, 5,400. I think I looked up his line. It was plus 230 on DK. If I use that goal scorer parlay, I'm certainly going with Drake Batherson. I really like that top line. I think there's a bit more that meets the eye here because of just how now 2 power play, 1 correlated top lines for these 2 teams is pretty rare, given what we've seen from them throughout the course of the year. And the goaltending has been super suspect in both cases. So pretty interested in that. 5,600 for a final guaranteed goal. Let's take a quick peek. Yeah, Will Smith is an option. Logan Cooley is an option. Let's go with Will Smith. The Vancouver, San Jose. What if the real cocaine circus was not Anaheim, but it was actually Vancouver? Sort of that sort of angle. And all right, that placed that last night. God, we're on the same page there. We are on the same page. And yes, as Lions, as expected, I have 6 minutes to build this showdown team, so I'm going to cut it off here. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. We will be back on, should be Tuesday, for the normal Morning Skate podcast. But stay tuned to the Discord throughout the day tomorrow. There's also games, so I won't do a show or anything. I'm a bit busier tomorrow, and the slate's a bit less packed, and DJ's still unavailable. But with all that said, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're watching this on DJ's channel, my YouTube is @FakeMoods, youtube.com/@FakeMoods. And if you're watching it on my channel somehow, see it on Twitter or Discord or whatever, please do subscribe to DJ's YouTube channel, youtube.com/@NHLDJ. My Twitter is @FakeMoods, so please give me a follow over there as well. Good luck today. We'll see you in the Discord. Peace.
You're saying they're looking like an idiot.
Well, is that any different than normal?
This is the first time I will admit was unbelievably wrong.